Hi, this is the squarefoot gardening version. Um, Squarefoot gardening is a really simple way if you have a limited amount of space. What you do is you divide up an area into square feet. It doesn't have to be square, but let's imagine we've got a 4 foot by 4 foot raised bed. Okay, so we've got 4 squares and 4 squares. We've got 16 squares in our little 4 foot by 4 foot bed. And what happens is that it's divided into divisible spaces. So the first one is obviously 1. Now you're going to grow things like a cabbage, which grows big, grows to about a square foot. So you can plant 1 cabbage in a square foot. And then you've got smaller things like lettuces, so you can plant 4 in a square foot. And then you've got little things like spring onions. You can plant 16 or 18, Now, there's lists. If you go out online, you can find out what can I plant in a square foot. And there's, tables, and they tell you, right, you can plant, if you're planting beetroot, you can plant 9. Or onions, you could plant 9. Or, and it's all of these sort of different little numbers. And there are templates, so you can get this on Amazon. I think they sell them for 30 quid or something. I'm speaking to somebody who we can get them 3D printed, and I think and trying to make them cheaper than that. But basically what it does is they've got little holes in them, and you put the template down, or you can do this by eye. Again, it's up to you. So 1 in the middle, 4. It's an eye. You can eyeball this, because it's really important not to get over worried about making it perfect. Nature doesn't have straight lines, doesn't have things lined up in perfect, spacing. So it's a good place to relax and let that go. Okay, it's going to be fine. So now what happens is we end up with, let's say we're planting 9 beetroot. Okay, beetroot takes a little while to grow. So we could put in amongst that beetroot some spring onion. Same with cabbage. I mentioned that in the last one. You can plant interplant. So let's say in this square foot I'm going to grow a cabbage. Fantastic. So what happens is we grow a cabbage, but then we plant 4 lettuces in that spot as well, because they're going to be grown, done, harvested long before that cabbage is taking up too much space. And then there's other plants that take up more space than just 1 square foot. A pumpkin. So I think it takes up 4 square feet. But again, when you plant a pumpkin, it's only a little thing like that. It takes a while before it takes over. Same with courgettes. Courgettes they can explode and turn into these big monsters. You can also be quite ruthless with them, because some of the bigger leaves that are in the way, just chop them off. And then there's a really a simple thing which I use with children when I'm at schools and things. So I use the square foot thing with kids. And we had a 4-foot wide bed, 16 foot long. So 4-foot wide bed, and that is south. So the sun comes from this direction, okay? And what I did was I got a tall kid and a short kid. And I put the tall kid on this side and the short kid on this side. And I said, is this child going to be in the shade? Oh, yeah. Everybody, yeah. So why would we plant tall plants on this side? Would it be a good idea to plant tall plants on this side and short plants on this side? And they all went, no. We want it the other way around. We want short plants here, tall ones there. Ta-da! So then what happened was we said, right, this first row here, short one, that's row 1, this is row 4. And then I had seedlings. And in groups of 4, the kids would come up and say, right, okay, here's 4 lettuces. What row are they in? Lettuces, tall or short? Yeah, it's good for them. So then those go in row 1, and then some go in row 2. So lettuces grow to yay tall, chard grows to that tall. So we're going to plant lettuce, maybe row 1, chards and things row 2, corn row 3 for sure, climbing stuff row 4 at the back. So if you've got runner beans, anything corn, anything tall, plant it at the back. And so it goes on. East-west, we're not going to worry too much, but you get the gist of it. So basically what you don't want to do is be shading something little that's in the wrong place. Now what happens is you can record everything. And this is kind of really one of the joys of squarefoot planting. And that is, if you imagine we have our 4x4, 4 foot by 4 foot bed. So our Excel people can draw, or just on an A4 piece sheet of paper, we just draw a square. There's our 4x4. Okay, we've got a grid. And then we can say which is north or south or whatever. It's just some way of orientating it. Okay, and at the bottom we've got plant, transplant, harvest. Okay, and a month. You write the month. So choose, July 2023. So in July 2023, we planted some cabbages in this one. So you write cabbage, and then you planted some spring onions here, spring onions. So you write it, what you planted in each one of those little squares. Now, you turn over the page, you've got another one. So that was June, July, August, September, October. So it goes on. Now, cabbage we know takes 3 months. So in that square, so if we've got the square, let's call that A1, Excel. In A1, in July, that's the next month, we still got a cabbage in there. Next month, still got a cabbage in there. Next month, we've got no cabbage because we've harvested it. Okay, so we think, what are we going to plant in that spot? It's August. We could plant some Asian greens because they like cooler weather. Fantastic. So we start, let's plant some Mizuna in there. Then we go back a month. Okay, so the cabbage is still in there because we're June, July, August. In August, under the heading plant, we're going to plant some Mizuna. So now what happens is, this can all be done in the wintertime. So now we're in June and it's busy and we're running around and we've got jobs and holidays and all kinds of other things. So when we get to August, I can see, I need to plant some Mizuna. Off I go, plant some Mizuna seeds, because I know I'm going to plant them the next month. Actually plant them out. And now what happens is you end up with this lovely history of what you've done as well. So next year, in your 4x4 bed, you can go, that one worked really well, that one was a disaster, and you can flick through each of the months, and when you planted, we planted that a bit late, we should plant that a bit earlier, so that they're bigger, so that or whatever. It's not a diary, it's not online, it's something you can just write. You can put it on a clipboard, you can do it on Excel if you really want to. But what it means is that you end up with something where you've got a record of your specific site. So now what happens is that you're not reliant on on the back of a packet of seeds, it's got plant in this. This is what we did last year. Let's try it a bit earlier or a bit later if it didn't work. Or let's try a different variety. So when you're marking labels on plants, to stick in the soil, and on that sheet, put the variety as well. So you don't just put carrots. You've got Nantes, what F1s or choose, doesn't matter which ones they are. But just write the variety, because then you know that variety was really good or not good. And then you can try different varieties, and it's really interesting. If you want to try something unusual, see if you can buy it from one of the markets or from some of the nicer fruit and veg shops. If you want to try kohlrabi, for example. A lot of people haven't eaten kohlrabi. It's fabulous. So it's part of the cabbage family. It looks like this alien-y type thing. It looks like an octopus. Delicious, really nutritious and healthy. But it's not everybody's cup of tea. So rather than taking 3 months to grow it and go, this is really horrid, buy some, try it, see what it's like. I'm also going to just touch on different types of seeds. So there's open pollinated seeds and F1 seeds. So open pollinated seeds are seeds that naturally occur. So, at the end of each year, the plants either are self-pollinators. So basically that means a tomato is a self-pollinator. So it's got male and female, and it can self-pollinate, and you can keep the seeds from tomatoes that are open pollinated. Now, F1 seeds are the way that seed merchants and people like Monsanto and so on, the big corporates, keep themselves in business. And what they do is they take a specific parent, mother and father, and combine and make a seed. Okay, and this seed is super performing, quick, whatever it might be. So the majority of barley, wheat, the commercial guys use F1 seed, and they have to buy it every year. That's why it's important for the seed merchants, because you can't keep seed. Can't. Okay. What happens is that if you take this specific parent and they produce seeds, you get this super productive variety. Okay. If you keep seeds from this one, so now you go to F2. So the parents are F0, that's F1. If you go to F2, you get an incredible variety. So there's a mix of the parents. So you end up with big ones, small ones, unproductive, super. It's just a big mess. This has caused a huge problem in the third world, where a lot of the farmers kept seed and planted it the next year. So their crop, they would eat some, sell some, keep the seed, plant, and so it goes on. And that's been going on for decades, millennia. And then the big sales guys came in and said, hey, I can improve your crop by blah, blah, blah. So they went, okay, great. They bought the seed, planted it. They ate everything from last year, so now they've got no seed left. Grew this fantastic crop the first year, kept this, they ate some, sold some, kept the seed, planted that seed, and it was a disaster. Less than the original that they had. Now, there's a couple of things. The genetics are gone because they ate it. They're now reliant on the buying F1 seed, and these guys are subsistence farmers, so they can't. Anyway, so you can grow F1s. So, for example, if you go into the supermarket and take a tomato and you quite like it, you can keep the seed and grow them. You will get variety. So, let's say it's an orange tomato. You might end up with some red ones and some white ones and some, all kinds of different ones. By the time you get to F8, that tomato plant will be open pollinated, so that you'll get a constant progeny from there. So it's just kind of interesting. If you've got time and are interested, it's really fascinating. Open pollinator. If you're growing vegetables from seed all the time, 6.5 dozen. You can buy F1 seeds if you want to. The reason I like to buy F1 seeds are for specifically quick growing things like corn. Open pollinated corn takes as long as it takes, and it grows in warm countries. It doesn't grow in Scotland. So I buy F1 seeds for things like corn, but for everything else I try and start it early. That's why I use those warm white LEDs. And so if you I planted chili seeds in January and I've got flowers on them now, and we are in April. But that's cost me heating, because I keep them in a warm environment, and light. It's only 28 watts, but it's a cost. Whereas I could buy an F1 seed, which is like a super duper quick one, and the seed merchants have specifically taken varieties that produce chilies very quickly. So here's the thing. Those chilies might not taste like anything, but they're quick. So those are the trade-offs that you've got to worry about. Is, do you want flavor? You can see where the seed merchants are coming from. They will produce corn that's very, very quick, but does it taste nice? Does it, So these are the choices you have to make as a grower. But as a beginner, hey, just plant seeds. Don't stress. Enjoy. I'm just going to talk about leaving the soil bare. So what I noticed, I had an allotment when I was a young man, and after the potatoes came out, sort of September, October, people just covered the ground. That was the end of it. Now, it is possible to grow lots of vegetables over winter. So Asian greens, so the mizunas and tatsoi and all of these things grow really well in cool climates. As I said, they grow slowly because there's not lots of sunshine, and it's cold, and it's a chemical reaction growth, so they don't grow very quickly, but they grow. The other thing is by keeping roots in the ground, what happens is that you keep the microbial population alive, because that's what happens in the wild. So plants that you can grow, lettuce, there's some fantastic lettuce out there that you can grow in the winter. As I said, the Asian greens are also really good. All of the cabbage family brassicas. So they also have done mine cold. So there's some really, winter stone type cabbages. Savoys do well. Winter sprouting broccoli, fantastic. Kale, kale is bulletproof. It's amazing, and there's some fantastic colors. So you get the Nero, which is the thin leafed. It's almost black. In the States, they call it dinosaur kale. I love that name. So you've got kale. You've got a scarlet kale, which I particularly like. It's purple. Lots of antioxidants in all of the purple veggies. It's got frilly edges. A lot of people go, well, what do you use kale for? So you can use it like spinach. The other thing, if you've got an air fryer or an oven, you can just wipe the whole leaf with, so you moisten a paper towel with oil, and you moisten you just rub it on the leaf, so now it's got a little bit of oil. Stick it in the oven, and it turns it into a crisp. It's like seaweed, crispy seaweed. It doesn't taste like crispy seaweed, but that's what the texture is, and it's really delicious. If it's slightly chewy, you haven't done it long enough. It needs to be absolutely crisp. And then, of course, what I haven't touched on is dehydrating. Now, dehydrating it's kind of new to me, but again, the University of YouTube has been a great help. And what happens is that if you've got vegetables that are in your fridge, on the turn, that you would normally, tomorrow you're going to bin them. But they're okay today, but tomorrow you're going to bin them. Chop them up, dehydrate them. So, and mix and match. So you got kale and lettuce and offcuts and leaves that aren't so fabulous or quite thick, and cut off the brown bits. Dehydrate everything, okay? And then when it's dehydrated and it's crisp, rub it between your hands and it turns it into a powder-ish. And I put it into a green bottle. I think I may even have it here. Yeah. This is it here. So it comes in a bottle like that. Green powder. Okay? So 500 grams of green leaf turns into 50 grams of green powder. So imagine a tablespoon of this. That's 10 tablespoons of green stuff that you can put into soups, stews, and scrambled egg, omelets. You can hide it in brownies. It's super nutritious, easy to make. This is mushroom. So it's mushroom powder. And all I do is, sometimes if you're in the supermarket and there's mushrooms that they're on sale, but you can see you're going to have to eat them tonight. Chop those up, stick them in a dehydrator, dehydrate them until they're crisp. And then same thing, you can put them in a food processor and just whiz them and turn them into powder. This is fantastic for, making, again, same thing. Stews, soups, just throw them into something. It's flavor and it's not a waste. And let me tell you, it turns into nothing. So you end up with a whole big punnet of these things. You get these big flat mushrooms and sometimes they're on sale. I tell you what, it turns into powder. You can do it with onions. It makes the house smell a bit. Okay. So what I do is I take the onion, I use red onions because I think they look quite nice too. So I chop the bottom off, so where the roots are, so I get rid of any potential soil, and cut them in half. And any of the skin that flakes off, But I don't peel them. If there's skin on there, that's fine. And then I put them through, I've got a food processor with a slicer. And you just slice them into little thin slices like that, dehydrate them. And I don't know how much they're going to reduce by, but I imagine it's going to be a factor of 10 at least. And you end up, so I've done a kilo, and you end up with this little bottle, sort of this size bottle of onion powder. Oh, what a joy. And again, a teaspoon is 10 teaspoons. So if you want to flavor things, it's amazing to make, and it's, you can buy them when they're on special. And you can do it throughout the year. This is from last year. So, it's dry. It has to be dry. Otherwise it will go moldy. And if there's mold, a little bit of mold, the whole lot's moldy. Just biff it. Start again. Just make sure it's really dry. And then you can make salts. It's something I sell. But I started off dehydrating some celery I had. Beautiful celery, delicious. So I dehydrated the celery and mixed it with salt, and it was like the stuff you buy from the supermarket. It was like, yeah, what am I doing? And I was thinking about it, and then I remembered, this whole sugar thing with osmotic pressure, and it sucks out all the juice and things like that. So I thought, here's what I can do. Why don't I chop up the celery, put it in the salt, leave it overnight, let the salt take some of the juice out. Now the salt has flavor. So we're not reliant on the little green bits in the salt, where the salt will have flavor. Chalk and cheese, fantastic, absolutely brilliant. You can do it with rosemary, you can do it with bay leaves. If you've got something growing in your garden, you don't need a lot. So strip a couple of leaves. I have done this in the past, where you go into the supermarket and they sell a little packet of rosemary out of season. But actually there's people who've got big rosemary plants. If you just go and ask them, they'll give it to you with pleasure. So you strip it all off, and then I just cut it up a little bit with a knife, just so that it's broken through. Now you would imagine rosemary is little sticks of green. There's no moisture in there. Let me tell you, that salt is able to pull out that flavor. Then you dehydrate it and then put it in a food processor and just whiz it, or you can grind it up with a grinder depending on how much you're making, and put it in a bottle. Now the rosemary salt, if you do it that way, when you put it into stews and soups or whatever, you taste rosemary. Whereas if you buy rosemary in a bottle in the supermarkets, I can't taste anything. I think it's just stick. You can do it with sage. The world's your oyster. I've heard mushroom salt is rather nice. Haven't tried it, but what the hell. So there's lots of things you can do with a dehydrator. I wouldn't go out and buy one. I think they're a bit like ice cream machines. I've got an ice cream machine in a cupboard that I used once. Okay, there's lots of people that have bought dehydrators with good intentions, and they're sitting in the back of their cupboard. Stick a note out on Facebook to all your buddies and say, please, can I have a dehydrator? If you've got one, please, can I try it? Even if you borrow it. And then it gets you, do I really like dehydrating? Is this a pain in the neck? I'm now at the point where if my dehydrator is not dehydrating something, I'm getting jumpy. It's such an amazing tool, and primarily because it reduces the size. You can freeze everything. You just throw it in the freezer and it's done. And I've had in my workshop, I've got this huge, big chest freezer. I may as well keep concrete in there, because I don't know what's in there, first off. And when I'm making a meal, I'm not thinking, oh, I wonder what I could have from the freezer down there. You almost need a database on there. So freezers, yeah, they're handy for some things. Dehydrating's just amazing. So I would highly recommend that too. Right, I'm going to stop, and I hope you've enjoyed this. If you want to, I'm happy to do a proper course. I'm obviously based in Edinburgh. What happens is that I do, it's a 4 or a 5 week course depending on what you want me to cover. And I love doing them. I kind of feel it's a little bit like a Billy Connolly joke. You start off on one direction and you end up talking about all kinds of other interesting things. There's lots of hands-on, lots of practical. I've spoken about some of them, with water and things like that. We grow microgreens, we taste microgreens. There's a tasting day. So the last course that we did, we had 12 eggs from the hens, got some cheese, and this was in March. So we got some leaf beet from the garden, leeks, some chard, Swiss chard, which is like spinach, but we got maroon colored leaves and lovely colored stems and all these fun things. Chopped those up. Somebody brought a potato and a pepper, and we turned it in, and it was an absolute hit. And what it does is it allows you to try different vegetables without having to buy them and cook them and then realize that they're awful. One of the things that I do with children, and this is well worth doing if you've got kids and you're growing vegetables, is allow them to try something. And often kids will go, oh, no, I don't eat that. And what I do at the schools, for example, we've got runner beans. And if they're young, I don't like runner beans when they're old and leathery. They're dreadful. But if you get young runner beans, what you do is you show the children how to pull them off the plant. So you hold the plant and you pull the thing. It's fine, okay. And then what you do is you say, right, break it like this. And of course, break it. And then you say, right, now take a bite. And you can see the cogs turning. It's like, this hasn't been washed. This is straight off the plant. It didn't come from Tesco's. And all of this is happening. But they take a bite. And they go, oh, this is nice. This is really nice. Some of the kids will just refuse point blank. So, no, I'm not going to eat that. You can say, okay, I tell you what. You have an option. You can spit it out. And the idea that they can spit this, we're outside, of course. They can spit this out. I mean, I have half the class spitting it out because they can, but they're still eating it. And then these harvest to soup. So what happens is we do another thing. We do a harvest to soup. So what happens is that we go into the garden with the children, collect a whole whack of stuff. They chop it up with proper knives under supervision, and we fry it up and add a bit of stock and, some of this, and then a bit of water. So it's completely vegetarian, vegan, choose what you want. And we turn it into soup. And then the amount of mothers I've had mouthing to me, they never eat this at home. Yeah, it's because now they've got, it came from there, we did this, and they're involved. It's not just going, whoop, here we go. So what that does is the revolution of food happens with children. And it's just amazing to watch how these kids just grasp planting seeds. Oh, not a problem. Let them do it. Transplanting seeds, I do it with preschoolers. And you can see the teachers dancing in the background going, oh, what about? And the preschoolers, I say, right, you get a pot like this. So here's the pot and here's the plant sticking out. And you put your hand over and you turn it upside down. And sometimes all the soil just disintegrates. And the teachers are going, no. It's like, it's okay. They dig a hole, put the plant in. And some of them slap the plant down. And again, you've got this, it's going to kill it. Bash on. Plants will grow. Some of them will die. And we can, while they're not looking, replace some of them and fix some of them. That's fine. It doesn't have to be in perfect lines. But they did it. And suddenly it's theirs. So at Karen Primary School in Falkirk, what we did was had some red cabbages. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do with these kids with red cabbages? Sauerkraut. So I chopped up the cabbage, so it was nice and easy. We didn't have sharp things at the school. Then we mixed. I got them not rubber gloves, disposable gloves. Put some cabbage into a bowl. Put the right amount of salt. They scrunched it up. The next bunch of kids came with these kind of jars, filled it up, and then we made sure it was covered. And I took them home. And the next week we all tried sauerkraut. And yes, there was the full range of spitting out and, fake vomiting and all those kind of things. But there was a whole whack of kids that really liked it. So again, it's about this experimentation and the ability for these children to go, I like that, I don't like it. And it's mine. So yeah, I'm going to stop rambling now. I really am going to stop this time. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please feel free to contact me, send me a note, let me know what you think of these. And yeah. Enjoy gardening.